Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to HR Repair. This is Hey Ray. This time, this introduction is going to be just a tad bit different, and the reason for that is because I want to kind of let you know what happened in the video. Obviously, we got this truck running, but this thing came to us as a crank no start after the farmer tried to put, he did put a oil pressure sending unit on it, and after he did that, he couldn't start it. It would crank, but it wouldn't start. So naturally, we thought there was probably something that he did to the wiring harness, because the wiring harness from the transmission comes up over the engine, and maybe there was something damaged. So in this video, you will see that I get a little bit caught up on that, and then also I also made a mistake in not verifying that I had the correct transmission wiring harness, so that kind of led us a little bit astray. Now, in this video, you'll also see that I replaced a part that wasn't bad. I am not going to bill the customer for that part. That is a part that he got brand new for free. It's a mistake I made. Now, could have we done some things differently? Yes, but at the end, we still got it running, and it wasn't a lot of wasted parts on this thing. So I didn't fire the parts cannon. Wasn't intentional anyway, but yeah, hopefully you guys find this video helpful and can learn from my mistakes. So stay tuned, and you guys will see what ended up fixing this truck and what was actually wrong with it. Thanks for watching. Contact. Alright, enough jawing around. I gotta find the keys. I thought he left them in here. Alright, keys. We have them now. What do we have? We have responsiveness there. No crank. Okay. Alright, so customer's complaint is confirmed. Let's hook up and let's just see if we see what we want to see. This is going to be a 2010 model. Alright, so the ironic thing is that it was working fine prior to the changing the oil pressure sending unit. So let's just see if this is got any codes. Nope. Alright, so let's come into live data. Oh, ignition data maybe? And let's just see if we can find anything here, whether the, excuse me, it's asking for the, well, it does have a ignition signal, so that is good. Alright. Engine data. Let's check this. What I'm wanting to see is is our transmission allowing us to ask for the engine to crank. Okay, and then I'm not 100% sure where to find that, but I'm gonna find it and I'll be back. Okay, so here, there's a lot of glare off of this, so maybe we can put it down here and see a little better. Okay, so here's our problem. I'm just going to show you where I came into. Alright, so on the snap-on tool, here, let's come back. On the snap-on tool, we go into ECM, data display. We're going to go into accessory electric data. Then come down to where our transmission, okay, yep, PNP switch. So park neutral switch is in gear. Now, it's not in gear. However, for some reason, it's not registering that we have any kind of gear. So, hence the reason it doesn't want to crank. Now, is this all related to what he was doing to this truck? I don't know. but let's crawl underneath this thing and let's find out. It's really odd that he's working up top on the engine and something goes bad there. Now, they're down below. If I get it said right, let's just check. Yep, that ground is good. All right, so he said the only place he was working is up top here by the engine when this problem started. So is there a fuse blowing? Is there an issue with the switch that just happened while he was working on this? Let's find out. So first thing I'm going to do, we're just going to look over the top part of this engine here and make sure that there's nothing wrong up top there, which it's kind of hard to tell. Let me get a ladder. We're going to get that top cover of the engine off of there and take a look. Also, let's get in underneath and let's just check our park neutral safety switch underneath, make sure that it didn't get unplugged somehow. This one is inside the transmission. Oh, that's real nice. Okay, so did we have we sustained some damage to some wiring somewhere maybe? Because this comes up out of the transmission over here, right here, and it goes up, and I believe it goes right past that sensor in the rear there. So how about I know you guys won't be able to see this, but how about I get up there, I will check around the back side there to make sure that it didn't somehow get caught on something while he was replacing that sensor. So let's see what we can find. Okay, well, we've done some checking. One of the things that you want to check is this ground up here at the corner of the passenger side head. Let me see if you can see that right there. I don't see a broken wire there. However, that doesn't always mean everything. There can be a bad connection there at that connection. The other thing is there is a ground down on the side of the engine, all the way down, kind of, yeah, up against the side of the block there, that you can have. What makes me think that this might be a ground issue is I was scrolling through here, and this is the internal mode switch, is range A, B, C, D, and P are all high. The way this works is there is a ground that pulls the switch into a ground. They should not all be high. One of them should be low. So if they're all high, we either have a bad internal switch on the transmission or we have a broken wire somewhere. Now, I do really want to check the wiring on this, simply because by working around up the top here, the ground goes through the wiring loom there, and also goes down around the back there, you can see, and it goes down to the transmission. So there is a possibility that somewhere that ground got pulled out or broken or something. So I do want to check that. We're going to check for a good ground down at the connector on the transmission. In order to do that, I'm going to need to pull this truck inside, because I don't want to be rolling around on the ground out here. And so yeah, we're going to pull this truck inside and see if we can figure out where our ground is went. If we have a good ground, then we do have an internal switch that's faulty, and it's probably just coincidence then. But yeah, with him working around up there, it makes me think that maybe there's a wire that's broke somewhere. So let's get this thing inside and we'll get to test. All right, so I've tested the ground all the way up here at the plug, and we found that we've got a good ground. So we're gonna have to pull the transmission pan, and there is a sensor inside that tells the computer where the location of the gear selector is. So in order to pull the pan, we also have to remove the exhaust. I usually just cut this pipe out and then I'll re-weld that back in, no problem at all. So we're going to go ahead, pull the pan and replace the park neutral safety. So we'll get that all replaced and this thing should start. In order to get this plug out of the side here, I got to remove this shield. Give me a little more access so I can get that out of there. So we're going to go ahead and get all of these out of here, get this off, unplug that, so I can repair the puncture that I made with this. Anytime you use those test pins, you do need to tape that up so that it doesn't start to corrode. So let's get this thing removed and we'll get that all replaced. 10 mil socket. Take these out. I knew this would happen. I knew it. Can never work on a transmission without making a big mess. All right, so the neutral safety switch is going to be this white module here, module sensor, whatever. This moves back and forth, and that tells the computer where the position is of our transmission selector. Let's pull this out of here. We're putting on a new oil filter. This thing really could use an oil change on the transmission. I don't have that machine as of yet. I wish I did. I really want one like Rain Man Ray has on his channel. It's a BG machine. It's really what I want, because you don't want to go flush these things any other way other than that, in my humble opinion. So let's get this thing unplugged from here. All right, now I guess before we get too carried away, why don't we make sure that our new parts are the same. Look at that, it's everywhere. Not sponsored by Pig Mats, but I support them wholeheartedly. All right, so this is the part number for our sensor, I believe it is. Let's see what we get here. Open this box and see what we got. Hey, looks very similar. Yep. Brand new from GM. There's the oil filter seal. Always replace that when you take it apart. Last thing you want is for your transmission filter to drop down. Now, let's make sure our seal or filter is the same. And it is. It all looks the same. All right. I think we're ready to get started tearing apart. We'll get this new one put on. It's held on by 2 bolts. Very simple to replace. So let's get you guys situated here where you can see somewhat, maybe, hopefully, without getting oil all over you guys. All right, so I believe it's also a 10 millimeter holding that in. The one is. The other one is supposed to be a special one. Don't you worry. Your pretty little self. Alright, GM, this is the way it's gonna go, huh? So, I'm gonna use an easy out and get that thing out of there. You guys thought you were gonna keep people from removing these things unless they buy your special tool? Guess again. Alright. Now, this thing goes up in here like this. Here. And since I don't have another one of those bolts that with the, sorry, you probably can't hear me, with the 10 mil thread, we're just gonna, or with the 10 mil head of the bolt, we're going to just put that one back in there, as well as this one, and then we'll just torque them down. And then to get this one here tight, I've used a 5/16 6-point, and I believe I can get that up on there tight enough to tighten it down. Might have to persuade it just a tad. Get my hammer out here. There we go. Okay, now torque to specs, just a little wrist click, we're good to go. Now let's get over here, get this plugged into here. Get this put into there. We're good. Okay, now we got to get that seal, filter seal out of there. But before I do that, I want to let this thing down, and we're going to make sure that everything is reading the way it should. We can do that, and I'm going to put a drip pan underneath here to catch it, and then we'll get it down so that I can test it before we put everything back together, just in case I tested it wrong. That has been known to happen. Well, folks, this is not a good thing. I checked it and it still doesn't work. So now I have once again jumped the gun, I believe. So yeah, we're gonna have to start digging, figuring out where the wiring problem is at. So let me get started looking. I need to go ahead and get a wiring diagram, which I had, but I threw away because I thought I knew what was wrong, because we do have a ground. We do have a ground, good ground down to the transmission. However, it's not coming back up to the TCM. So yeah, well, not what I wanted. Guess I'll be eating that part. It happens. So let's go ahead and get our research done. Start all over with testing. So somewhere I missed a step. All right, guys. So I think I've figured out, along with someone else that I have confided in, that knows a lot more about these things than I do. But I think I figured out what happened. So if we remember, I don't know if it's been a couple of days since I originally checked this thing out, but originally what I was going off of was this wiring diagram here. And if you look, this is a 4L60, 4L65, and 4L70. It's just enough different that it makes a huge difference. So it's the same idea, but a lot different. So what, where the 4-speed gets its ground from G103 or 106, the 6L80, which is what we've got, 6L80 wiring diagram, it gets its ground, which is going to be this one right here, from the transmission control module, right here. The transmission control module is on the side of the valve body inside the transmission. So, I believe what we're going to have here is a failed transmission control module, and the guy that I talked to said that he's seen this happen several times, and the only thing that fails is this ground circuit for the IMS, which is the internal mode switch. So what I want to do is I want to create a ground by back probing the connector at the IMS and the TCM and create a ground path for this, and then we'll see if we have a ground in the, or if we have a signal to the dash. So yeah, and if that's the case, which I am 99% sure that that's going to be the case, if that is the case, we're going to, there's two different ways we can take this. We can replace the TCM, which is going to require reprogramming it with the GM program, which I do have. The other thing that we can do is create a ground by grounding it to the case on the end, on the valve body, and creating a ground of its own, and everything should work. So we're going to leave that up to the customer. I'll call the customer and let him know. But first I want to test this theory and see if that's correct. So, did I mess up? Yes, I did. The first mistake I made was not verifying that I had the 6L80 wiring diagram. And yeah, so amateur move. Let's get you guys over here. I'm going to create a ground path for that connector, which is going to be the gray wire. And what did I say? Connector A, terminal A, gray wire on the IMS. Let's get that, and then we'll test their theory. So this is a crude way of doing it, but it should work. So gray is the one all the way over on the left, and we're going to ground that out to the case, and let's see if we have a signal coming up to our TCM now and our ECM telling us what gear we're in. Alright, so if you guys remember, before we had no PRNDL display and live data on our transmission. Everything was high in IMS range A, B, C, and P, and our IMS is invalid. So now let's turn the key on and let's see what we've got. Let's go back out of here, come back in, and look at there. Also, look at there. We have a PRNDL indicator again. Okay, that tells me what we need to do. I need to call the customer. We're going to leave it up to him what he wants to do. I would recommend on this truck here to, instead of spending a ton of money, to go ahead and ground that wire out to the case instead of replacing the transmission control module. So I'll be back as soon as I know what he wants to do. All right, there's our repair. We don't have to worry about coating the or providing a cover for this or seal it off, because this is it's going to be internal on the transmission, covered in oil. It's not going to leak. It's not going to corrode, so we don't need to worry about that. What we do need to do is, before we get too carried away, I already removed this, the old seal up here. We're going to put the new seal in. Then I'm going to drop the thing down. Before I put the filter in, I'm going to drop it down. We're going to test and make sure our fix is good. And then we'll put this thing all back together and it should work. So I'll be back as soon as I get that filter seal put up in there, and we'll drop it down and make sure that everything works. All right. I'm inside here. Too lazy to get the camera, but it works. So we're going to go ahead and put this thing back together, and this thing should start right up. We're also going to repair our wiring that we pierced down below and up above. Once I get all that done, get this all back together, I'll bring you guys back. We'll test this thing out, make sure it works. All right, so we don't have everything all back together, but I'm just bursting with curiosity. So we've got oil in it. I need to finish up a few things, but let's see if this thing will start. We see that we have our park indicator. It's back, so it is reading correctly. Okay, now contact. There we go. That's what it takes. So yeah, I've not had one quite like that before. I know we did one on the channel here probably several months ago. It was a Duramax with the Allison transmission, and it had the switch on the inside, IMS, that was faulty, and I replaced it and it worked. Well, this one was a little different, so yeah, that should fix it. We'll button up that wiring harness. I was doing some testing there, so we got to button that up a little bit and put our fuse box cover back on, top it off with oil, just check everything, make sure it's good, and then we're going to take this thing out on a test drive. But as you can tell, it does work. Okay, well, we have got this truck out on the road, and the tires are no easy. But aside from that, this thing is running good, driving good, and goes through all the gears. So yeah, this is a confirmed fix, and we're going to go ahead and close out this video. And I want to thank you guys for being here. Thank you for watching. I know that you know, I could have edited all the mistakes out, but you know, it's life. It's, you know, we don't always get it right the first time, and sometimes we do have to call somebody that's done it more than us, and in the multitude of counselors there's safety. So there you go. Yeah, but anyway, thanks for being here. I want you guys to have yourselves a great day, and like, share, and subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you guys anything, and it helps me out tremendously. Y'all have a great day. Bye.